Hey everybody, so I'm trying to stay as calm as possible right now because I realized that Gintoki is standing in front of my bar with a chainsaw. So if you haven't caught on, it's spooky season here at Dan Exclaims. And today, when we open up the bar, I'm going to be talking about my 5 spookiest characters in My Hero Academia. And when we head inside to talk about this, there might be some spoilers out there. So if you're not caught up of My Hero Academia's manga, this one might come off a little bit spoilery to you. But now it's time to head inside because I don't want to be around when Gintoki drops that thing. Welcome to the bar, folks. Okay, so our spooky season top 5. Now, before we head over to the wall and start talking about this top 5, there's one thing that I really want to preface, and that's the difference between being genuinely scary and being intimidating. For instance, someone like Endeavor. Now, starting from his quirk alone, you could absolutely say that his quirk is scary, but I have a feeling more people would tell you that his quirk is cooler than it is scarier. That's what I mean from intimidation to quirk. Another example, Muscular. Muscular was a psychopathic murderer, but the way that he was portrayed was more of that of an obstacle rather than a genuine threat. I mean, in the end, a 5-year-old stood up to him. So I hope that's what you can kind of take into consideration when I did this list. And I'll be taking everything into consideration from OVAs to spin-offs. Why? Because there hasn't been anything that explicitly says that this is not a part of the My Hero Academia universe. We see time after time that My Hero pulls things from the movies or from spin-offs to further its story. USA's #1 hero debuted in the very first My Hero Academia movie. So when it comes to what's canon and what's not canon in this universe, I don't want to hear it. Horikoshi thinks everything is canon in his universe. Because when the main plot is not occurring, yeah, Bakugo and Deku teamed up with Hawks. Get over it. And with that being said, let's head over to the wall and tackle this first video for spooky season. Okay, so rounding out our list of number 5 in our ranking of the spookiest characters in My Hero Academia goes to Romero Fujimi of the Samu Academy High School. Romero Fujimi and his quirk, Zombie Virus, debuted in the second OVA for My Hero Academia. And the name of that OVA? Training of the Dead. And I think it's pretty obvious why he's rounding out the list of our top 5 spookiest characters. His character is named after the godfather of zombies himself, George Romero. And this is one of those situations where I had to take into consideration a person's quirk versus their personality. So Fujimi is portrayed in a way that he's kind of similar to Bakugo, but he's more pretentious in that aspect. He's kind of full of himself in a macabre evil scientist kind of way. He kind of acts in a way that we would have expected Bakugo to actually act, if we still had the notion that Bakugo might become a bad guy later in the series. But what's truly terrifying about this character is what the capacity of his quirk could actually entail. Because to be quite honest, he's really the first quirk that we encounter in My Hero Academia that borders on JoJo-esque. Because the most recent chapters of My Hero Academia completely blow the wheels off when it comes to continuity. Movies, spin-offs, like I said, everything is free game now in My Hero Academia to be a part of its continuity. So when it comes to a truly terrifying quirk, Fujimi has to round out our top spot. And one of the main caveats to this quirk is that he's not immune to its effects either. And their quirk is essentially that. It's the zombie virus. You bite another person, they turn into a zombie. But additionally, it makes them impervious to damage, meaning that when you hit them, they might get hurt, but they're going to keep on moving. The main thing that I would guess is, after an extended period of time, the gas's effect wears off. When you think about it, his character is a lot like Mustard, where Mustard has to constantly emit that sleeping gas. And actually, when you think about it, he essentially ruins the entire joint training exercise because he gets a little too overzealous and tries to prove himself to UA. Because when he infects Bakugo with the zombie virus, and then in turn Bakugo bites Fujimi, it screws up the entire training exercise. Because now you have a bunch of 15, 16-year-olds freaking out that zombies are biting them and turning them into zombies. So instead of going on the offensive, they're running away. And this was actually one of those OVAs that was genuinely hilarious at some points because of how meta it got. At one point, they were asking whether or not it was possible if the zombie plague could end if the person that caused it became a zombie. Like, they were already thinking about the end of the world and how they can get back society before it even collapsed. And despite having an admiration of All Might and wanting to aspire to be a hero like All Might, we have to say that Romero has one of the more terrifying quirks in My Hero Academia, and if the right person wanted to steal that quirk and end the world with it, he absolutely could. Moving on, Number 4. I actually had a pretty tough time choosing between two people for this one. It was either gonna be Star and Stripe, because honestly, Star and Stripe's quirk is pure nightmare fuel. If she says that air doesn't exist, it will cease to exist. Her quirk is like King Crimson in quirk form. It just makes no sense whatsoever. But the choice was either between her and our actual choice, Toga. Out of all the villains, Dabi included, she's the one that slashes people's throats and then laps up the blood. So when it comes to a truly terrifying character worthy of making this list, it absolutely has to go to Toga. She's a vampire. And granted, right now she's going through a weird character phase where we really don't know what's next for her, but besides that fact, she's a literal vampire. So when you have people cutting people's throats, they absolutely have to make this list. And without a doubt, Toga is a solid number 4 on this ranking. Number 3, Toga's quote-unquote idol, Stain. When My Hero Academia first started, we were searching for the villain that would show up that would not be related to the main storyline whatsoever, but they would be able to portray what this world of heroes has become. And still till this day, Stain becomes one of the greatest villains to grace the pages of My Hero Academia. He tortures heroes, he degrades them, and then he murders them. Or sometimes, he makes them live a fate worse than death, like severing their spinal cord when they're a speedster hero. Stain is one of the most prolific killers in My Hero Academia, and will stay as such because we know his body count, and we've seen what he does to pro heroes, and we've seen what he does to like 15, 16-year-olds as well. He's a very smart villain, and he's also one of those villains that likes to find reasons to kill you. So when you're putting a list together of the spookiest characters in My Hero Academia, the guy that stabs you, licks your blood, paralyzes you, and then begins to monologue as he stabs you to death, absolutely makes this list. And if you have a problem with that, take it up with Stain yourself. Number 2. Now, this was rather difficult because I had to kind of come to the understanding that there was a difference between All For One and the good Dr. Garaki. All For One will always be the ultimate evil. He'll always be the big bad of this series, and we've seen him do some pretty heinous shit before. When I like to display All For One's brutality, I like to show this particular panel from Vigilantes when he's literally holding a brain and a brainstem. The thing is, when it comes to that particular character, that's just pure evil. When it comes to scary and fear, it has to go to Dr. Garaki. We would all say that All For One is the puppet master, but Dr. Garaki is no puppet. He's the guy that manufactures the strings for the puppet master to use. He helps create the nomus, he helps find the test subjects, and my guess is he helps with a lot of the surgical procedures when it comes to making nomus as well. Dr. Garaki is responsible for all of the test subjects that we've seen in My Hero Academia so far, from number 6 in My Hero Academia Vigilantes to 9 from My Hero Academia's second movie. He's a literal Dr. Frankenstein. And the worst part about it is he knows that he can figure out how to finagle some sort of immunity because he knows he has so much dirt on All For One. And the thing that's even worse than that is All For One probably doesn't care whatsoever. He just needs the good doctor back so he can continue his experiments. So from that point of view, All For One really doesn't care what he reveals because All For One's under the mentality that he can just steamroll anything at this point. But while All For One focuses on global domination, Dr. Garaki is the guy sitting there with Shirakumo on a slab of metal while he picks inside of his brain. And the icing on the cake for this dude being one of the most psychotic people in My Hero Academia, remember Bakugo's friend Tsubasa? Well, he's the grandson of Dr. Ujiko. And remember this Nomu that attacked Deku? Yeah, it's been confirmed that that's Tsubasa. Dr. Ujiko turned his grandson into a Nomu. This man took his child's child and turned him into a Nomu. That is terrifying. And to be quite honest, everything else aside, that is the main reason why he's number 2 on my list right now. Because the number 1 character that I think is the spookiest character in My Hero Academia is, you guessed it ladies and gentlemen, Oyama. This dude is creepy. It's not even just his quirk, it's who he is as a person. Pineapple has an entire theory video based around the fact that this Jagoff could be the UA traitor. I won't go into it much here, you could check it out in the card above right now, but pretty much it entails the fact that Oyama is a creepy individual. Now, I might just be an asshole here in saying that the creepy kid is the creepy kid in class, but still, he's the guy that was like, hey, did you know where I was this entire time? Like, if I'm one of the students at UA, I'm like, dude, we just started school a week ago and 50 villains just showed up trying to kill us. Why are you so chill right now? I'm pretty sure sure he also goes into the fact that he thinks Tsukauchi is already on Oyama's tail. Either way, it's a fantastic UA traitor theory, and it absolutely holds weight because Oyama is a creepy individual. Right when you think that there's going to be more elaboration behind his character, something happens where it acts as a total misdirect to the fact that Oyama's acting super creepy. Like, instead of going to the front door to ask a person a question, he waited till they fell asleep and stood outside their window. Because if he does get outed as a villain, for shame on every single one of us, because we all saw it coming at this point. He was that weird. Because on top of that, the way that he speaks is just very mysterious and very spooky. Every time he speaks in some sort of haiku or mystery that we just simply don't understand, and we're trying to weave through his words like it's some sort of Riddler puzzle. And the heroes at UA right now are taking down villains that are like 7 to 10 years older than them, so it's about time that maybe they get a villain that's around their age. And making it one of the classmates would be pretty cool. And Pineapple's theory is pretty wild, so I suggest every single one of you go check it out as well. So yeah, those are my top 5 characters in My Hero Academia that I deem as the spookiest. This was one of the hardest lists that I've ever had to put together, because like I've harped on throughout this video, there is a distinct difference between being intimidating and actually instilling fear inside of one of your targets. Endeavor can be as brutal as he wants towards villains. It'll never top the fact that Stain had 6 heroes paralyzed with fear, wondering what he was going to do next. So look, if you don't agree with my picks for the spookiest characters in My Hero, be sure to leave yours in the comments down below. Now until next time, I found this weird notebook outside. I'm gonna go see if it belongs to anyone. I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.